if I talk about my experience, I've not spent a penny on advertisements for the past 22 years. But he's been in a particular role for 3 years. The normal thing is that, she's doing a great job, let her stay here. After every 3 years, I send out a circular, a little Google form saying, are you happy? You want to change? And if you want to change, what should it be? Principal said that, ma'am, but the management will not accept. I said, why will they not accept? I said, somewhere there has to be a very honest communication.
Hi, my name is Univariety Gupta. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Univariety. Education has evolved significantly from traditional book learning to experiential learning. The advantage of experiential learning is that you learn from your own experiences and you learn from the others. The added advantage to the learning from others' experiences is that you will learn along the way what not to do in your own journey. This morning, we're going to be talking to Mrs. Aditi Misra on how schools differentiate through technology, diversity, and accessibility. Who is Aditi Misra? Needs no introduction, really. An illustrious career in education for the last 4 decades across various DPSs within India and outside. An alumnus herself from DPS Arkipuram and then Lady Sriram, she knows education inside out. Mrs. Misra has an illustrious career for 4 decades now, wearing multiple hats, including being an ambassador at the British Council and a master trainer at CBSE. She has been a Karamveer awardee, a Maharatna awardee, and this is only a few to name. She also has authored several books and is an institution in herself to talk to us about schools. From the time that education that I went through, which was mostly about learning from books, then today there's so much of experiential learning. There's a big shift in the way children are getting to learn, and of course teachers are getting to teach.
So in these 40 years, I must admit there's been a sea change. But if we were to say that 40 years ago we only taught from the book would be a little unfair, because there were teachers even then who were stepping out of their comfort zones. We used to see teachers who taught maths and science going out into the garden, showing them area and perimeter, figuring out the sports field, for example, or picking up stones and leaves from the garden. I remember as a teacher of history, I would make them create their own little, caveman unit by bringing just one bed sheet from school. Just overturn the chairs and, get inside and see now what it feels like to be in a cave. Wow. So I didn't have to teach them that it was dark, it was cold or very hot, either way. And, what kind of drawing do you think they made then? So they ended up making stick figures, and that's what you find in the caves. So a lot of experiential learning was happening, but we are very happy as educators that now it's become mandated. There are a lot of trainings. So for a large number of teachers, there's been a sort of an unlearning first and then relearning. Because there's no denying that children learn best if they're taught in a multiple of ways. Just reading the book is something they'll read for the moment, maybe read for the test and then forget about it. Only if it's made enjoyable, if they're made part of the process, will they remember it and, apply it at some time in some conversation or in some situation. And that's what we as teachers want to do, that they should be learning in the truest way and using that learning somehow, in some way. So children ask now, why should I be studying this, ma'am? They ask. There should be a reason, and sometimes we do give that other very lame answer that, it's in the syllabus, sweetheart, I don't like it either, but we have to study it. And then you teach it in a very different way. I've had children teaching sometimes if it's a particular concept which I find is difficult or not very real or not something which I can introduce through an experiential method. I put the ball in their court. I said, now you tell me, how should we be teaching it? We have a fun time doing that. I know we have quizzes for that. I've had dumb charades with history. I know teachers are doing a lot of stuff inside the classroom so the learning becomes joyous and more interactive than it was before.
At a school that is going through its first decade, there are so many different challenges.
Absolutely.
And it changes in the next decade. You just share your thoughts on what challenges you faced in the first 10 years of the school and how it changed in the next.
Any new school, anywhere in the world, has to first establish an identity. No school can or should be a clone of another. So I always, if I'm asked at all, I always advise have a name which is new. Don't copy a name. It won't work. The world is very smart. They'll know you're trying to copy. Nobody likes copies. Everybody likes the original. So be original first. Establishing that identity now in the hearts of people, walking the talk. So if you start off by saying that, our children care for the community, and then you don't have community programs, or you say you're very environment conscious and you don't have a water harvesting, you don't have a solar panel, you have to walk the talk. And the first 10 years are very important because people are looking at you through a scanner. Okay, this is what you said. Let me see how you're going to do it. So how will the outside world come to know? Nowadays, it's very easy. You have social media, you put up 10 things. A lot of people verify that is she actually saying what is the right thing? Is the management saying what they're actually doing? They have their ways of finding out. The other way is, of course, through the student. So students are our best ambassadors, I find. They'll go out and say it. They'll talk to their parents, they'll talk to their cousins, their neighbors, the community. So your first 10 years are establishing that identity, that vision, and making it apparent to the entire world through your children, through your stakeholders, parents. And you have to be very cautious. There has to be nothing out of line, nothing out of place, because you are like proving yourself. It's like starting a paper. You start with a good handwriting and, you make it look really, really nice and presentable. Once that is established in the first 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, now comes the tougher part of maintaining that. But a lot of people get tired. Kitni baar kare? We've done this, been there, done that, wala. That is something which is a challenge for everybody, because how do you keep the morale pepped up? You may be very pepped up because you are leading the school. It's a lovely feeling, that vision, that responsibility. A lot of people who become principals thrive on that thought that this is my baby, But how do you keep the rest of the community equally enthralled, so to say? So it's all about engaging people in different things from time to time.
This is both your internal stakeholders, the teachers,
everybody,
students
also. So for teachers, for example, if somebody's been in a particular role for 3 years, the normal thing is that, no, she's doing a great job, let her stay here. After every 3 years, I send out a circular, a little Google form saying, are you happy? You want to change? And if you want to change, what should it be? As a very young teacher also, I was made in charge of functions in one of the DPSs I worked for. So instead of making a traditional list which used to come out from time immemorial, I sent out the same list but saying, are you willing to contribute? Yes, no. And if yes, which department? And these are the departments. There's a rehearsal department, there's a catering department, there's a last day function department, there's the ambience department, there is a costume department, there's a script writing. So you tell me which is your strength. So everybody felt very nice that they were at least asked.
Yeah.
And you tried to put everybody in the right place. And those, if there was too many in one department, and whoever was my friend, I would say, come on, you move into another one, you can do that also, come on, and with friends, it works. So the next 10 years are about maintaining that through your teachers and giving the children enough new things to do. Because, when they're part of the school, they know. Yeah. In class 5, this will happen, then 6, this will happen, 7, this will happen. Throw a surprise that now 7, this will also happen. Wow. So it keeps that interest and that excitement level at the level that you want it to be.
How much role do you think then the students that have already passed out from the school play in sort of the third decade of the school? Because now you have more ambassadors out there. Parents have experienced, the school in multiple ways. That's one question. The other one is, are still results a big benchmark, a yardstick for the parents to say, okay, this is a great school I want to be a part of?
So I'll answer the first one first. I think alumni are the backbone of a school. They're a very important stakeholder, which sometimes some schools don't remember. They only see the ones that are physically available. The faculty, the parents, the teachers. That's it. and the students, of course. Alumni are the ones who are going to be talking about your school. Alumni are the ones who are going to stand out there. Somebody will say, oh, which school or college has he gone to? Look how well he speaks, or look how well he conducts himself. So, if I talk about my experience, I've not spent a penny on advertisements for the past 22 years. But my advertisements are these young people who walk out, whose bosses see them, and they talk about the school. So a lot of them come back and say, ma'am, in the interview, all they asked about was my experience at the exchange program or my experience in Shiksha Kendra, the school for the underprivileged, the privilege that we run in the school. So how the child comes across, and comes from the heart, because it's not something they've learned by heart or something, it's not a chapter. They've experienced that. So the way they put it across, I think, makes a lot of difference to the world out there. And then the second thing that we do is, this is what they are doing for us. We get them back into school very often. So if they are anywhere in the vicinity, they come in, they talk to the juniors, they may counsel them, and they tell them, don't become preachy. It's very boring. Tell them about your journey. Tell them what you did, why you did it, and what it has done for you. So it's not like one size fits all.
Yeah.
If I was forced to do what I didn't want to do, I don't think I would be here. So for me, the whole idea that doing what you want to do brings you happiness, and that for me is success. I have never been able to mark success with how many marks you got. It just doesn't work for me. If you enjoy what you're doing, marks will come. That famous dialogue from Three Idiots, marks jhak maar ke aayenge. But enjoy what you're doing. If you're doing it under pressure, it's not going to work. It's going to show in your face, it's going to show in your mannerisms, it's going to show in your mental health now, more than anything else. And why? It's just one life, try to be happy. So I think the alumni engagement that way has worked very well for us, calling them back, getting them to judge certain events, getting them to talk to the children, getting them to think about the Shiksha Kendra also, and come back to teach them. A lot of them who come here in the summer, you'll be surprised, Angela, they come here for just 6 or 7 weeks. They spend 3 weeks teaching English to the Shiksha Kendra kids.
Really? Wow.
And they feel very upset if I offer them some, a little pocket money. And I said, you've come, it's just think of it as conveyance allowance. Think of it as something, go buy yourself something from Fab India. So then they take it, but but it's our school. Why should you have to pay us anything? I just want to give them, little something to remember us by. So it always works well for that. For the second part of your question, how much do results pay? I really don't know, because again, I've never advertised my results. They're on the portal for the school community to see, but parents do see that, frankly. And I always say marks are not everything, but marks are also not nothing.
Yeah, not nothing.
You can't say it doesn't matter, you can get a 40 and it will be fine. No, it won't be fine. Yeah. But you can't say marks nahi aayenge, so I'm going to just run away from home. Don't do that, And again, I'm repeating myself, if you do what you enjoy, allow yourself to have that choice and that enjoyment, but then you will do well. So I lament the fact that sometimes parents push children. Sometimes children come under peer pressure. Some subjects are supposed to be very cool. I said, being cool is being happy, not doing a certain subject. If I was forced into a certain subject, I would have been a basket case within 3 years. You have to do what you enjoy doing, because that's what's going to matter in the end.
That actually gets me to the next question, which I had put. We don't see too many students choose education as a career choice. It seems like everything else is more fashionable to do. And talking about you who chose this career back in the day, what were your influences? Who were your influences? Why did you want to choose education?
I have no idea, because my mother was teaching in between, but for her, it was like she was helping a friend more than anything else. But she was very fond of teaching. So probably I saw her. But even before that, mummies only tell me that I was a very young child. I would just, wrap a chunni around myself and pretend to be a teacher. And one of the doors of some cupboard was made into a blackboard. And I taught whoever would be willing to listen. It could be soft toys, it could be my brothers, it could be just about anybody. So that instinct to teach was perhaps dormant in me. I have 2 younger brothers. So my first trial at teaching was with them. There's a largish age gap between us. And I think when I entered DPS RK Puram, I found all my teachers very inspiring. And I wanted to be like them, so that whole thing of, I want to be like this. I want to influence the next generation. I want to mold children. I want to help spread education. I think those things were paramount in my mind, and I'm very blessed that I had parents who were not judging me for my choice of subject, for my choice of career. All that my mother and father said was, do what you want to do, but do it well. Don't then say that I have regrets and I made a mistake. Don't say that. You think about it. You want to do a certain set of subjects, go ahead. You want to follow a certain, passion, please go ahead. I must say I was teased a little bit by some friends and by some, family members. But I think when you get support from somebody who matters a lot, mommy and papa, it was more than enough for me.
I can imagine though, because then traditionally people will be taking engineering, or
medicine, engineering, law, MBA.
Yeah.
The world was doing that, and I kept saying, I can't do this. I can't sit in an office all day and just not meet humans and not be among children and all of that. And I used to have a very passionate hobby with dance. So I said, where will there be time for dance otherwise? Of course I hadn't. If I had met someone like Shobna Narayanji, who managed a full career in the services and managed dance, maybe I would have changed my mind. But at that moment, for me, it was very important that I have a job which allows me that flexibility to carry on with my passion. Yeah.
DPS also has students who come back as teachers. We've met a few. We've also had their testimonials, and they share similar passion, because I've heard them speak on that. Is that a conscious effort to get back the students to say, come back to school to teach us at any point, or this is organically?
So in class 11, we have 6 weeks of talking about careers. So I don't like to call outsiders, because outsiders are not that invested. I call people within the school, alumni, teachers, parents, family of teachers, family of alumni, who would come and talk about their job more as human interest than a lecture on what does a banker do and what does a civil servant do. So they talk with their passion about why they joined, how they joined, what were the pitfalls, what was the journey like, what was the really difficult part. So one of those talks is given by me as an educator. Okay. So when I start teaching, it's very funny that how many want to be a teacher? One hand goes up. I said, how many want to be a principal? 10 hands go up. So I said, okay, the principal doesn't descend from the heavens. She has to be a teacher, or he has to be a teacher, and then they rise up, so the ranks. Then I asked them, I said, why don't you want to be a teacher? So they're very honest. So some of them, and that is a problem, that the salary is not commensurate with the kind of work you do. So they say, ma'am, salary. Anywhere else, you start with a 5-figure salary. Here you may not, 6-figure salary. So that's one problem. The second thing, one of the very honest ones, which every year I get from them is, ma'am, children are a very thankless lot. I said, you are one of them. Yes, ma'am, I realize that what if I had me in my class, I would want to slap him hard. I said, no, but you're not allowed to slap. You change people with conversation, with counseling, with little cajoling. So they have those issues. But having said that, I think somewhere that little thought is there that, you can, if it gives you happiness, then you should do this. Because now you have so many opportunities. You can if you go overseas as a teacher, or if you teach in a good international school, you still have that, financial benefits coming in. Plus, if you're into sports or into adventure, you go out with the children, and there's so much to learn with that. So if you just trade off money for happiness, I think it might work well for some. We get a lot of new careers also, because I may not know too many, because it's changing every second year. Yeah, so when somebody asks me that, how are you preparing your children for tomorrow? I said, how can I prepare them for something 5 years? I'm not an astrologer. I tell them to deal with change. Any change that comes, take it in your stride, embrace it and move ahead. The biggest lesson for us was COVID. With all its negativity, which taught us to deal with change. Most of us did not know how to start a Zoom conversation, leave alone having a 50-minute class over there. We all learned. So in the same way, be able to embrace whatever is happening, deal with it, learn, and then do well in whatever you're doing. And I think that's the key. So if a child starts weeping about a change of section, I get very upset. If you can't deal with the change of section, how will you deal with what's going to happen to us 5 years from now? So It's one of those things. You have to teach. This is also experiential for me.
One of the things that we've seen that, it is important to know as an administrator, the actual job, which is teaching. Similarly, we feel like if the ownership of the school, if they're not aligned with the vision of teaching or education, there could be a different turn of outcome in the schools. I recently saw Mrs. Devka Jaipuria's post on how inspired she is with your work, and we recently lovely post she put on LinkedIn. How has it been working with the management here?
Again, I'm very, very blessed because they're all dipsites, firstly. Mr. Jaipuria, his entire family, his 2 children, Devyani and her brother. So, I think a management which comes from a certain, family with a certain heritage, respects education completely, unequivocally, and 100%. The second very important ingredient in any relationship is trust. So, even at the time when I started the school, when maybe I wouldn't have trusted myself to handle a school, they trusted me. And that had to change me because they said, you do it, we are with you. I said, what if I fail? It doesn't matter. So that it doesn't matter really helped me that, okay, I'm allowed to change, I'm allowed to falter, and they'll be there to dust me off and say, carry on, you're doing a good job. One mistake does not, mean the end of the world. So that, I think, kept me going. And I think when people ask me, why haven't you moved? You could have gone anywhere. I said, but, you move when you're not happy with something. You move out of a relationship, you move out of a job, you move out of friend circles if you're not happy. But I am happy here. Why would I want to move? And as a family, they have been supportive, trusting, and they know education. Without being teachers, they know education. So
I think that is very important.
Very important because, like Mrs. Jaipuria tells me very sweetly that, when she used to go to PTM, she would wait for her turn quietly. And she said, I never back-chatted with the teacher. If they said something, I just listened. And I came home and I took my children's class. Why was this said about you? Why are you talking so much in class? And how dare you go out and all of that? It just shows that for them, that generation especially, teacher's word was law. And it was obviously your kid who was wrong. That dimension is somewhat changing now. So that sometimes upsets teachers, frustrates them, especially if they'll be there for 10 years or 20 years. Pehle to this is not happening. What's happening now, ma'am? I said, relax. It's just, turmoil. Relax. Both people can't be agitated. Parent is agitated, you calm them down and tell them that you're saying something for the child's benefit. It cannot be, doesn't benefit me if a child listens in class.
As an administrator, ma'am, when you get that support, you get the freedom to sort of plan and execute in school. I think having that in an educationist's hand is so much better than saying, somebody who doesn't understand it.
Yes.
So you feel like you've got that support.
I've got that support. I have had the pleasure of also talking to a lot of startup schools, very new schools, whether part of DPS or outside. And quite a few principals say that, ma'am, but the management will not accept. I said, why will they not accept? I said, somewhere there has to be a very honest communication. Ask them, what is the school for? If it's for profit, march out as soon as you can. If it's not, if it's for education, if it's for the betterment of children, put forward the program. They say, yes, it's going to cost money, but with this money, we're going to get this benefit. I don't see any management going against it. So the schools that are doing well, you will find across the country that the management is supportive, is not only for profit, and there's an immense amount of trust in the leadership team that runs the school.
If there's a common ethos that runs, because it is a vision of the administrator or the owner of the school that passes on to the students, how do you do that in a group school? Now, because you have different locations, different people, different principles in each of these. How is that ecosystem still kept as one?
So the first thing that keeps us going is the school motto, service before self. That is ingrained. In me, it's ingrained from 1971 when I became a student in the school. For the others, the moment they take on the job, that's one of the first things that you have to keep in mind, that you are serving. You're serving the parents, you're serving the community, you're serving the children, you're serving the teachers. If that remains your underlying ethos, you can't go wrong. And then we share. I mean, in our group schools, we have 4 schools. We always sit together. We have a group on WhatsApp as well where we share. If we've done something new, something different which has gone down well, we immediately share it. It's not that it's my idea and I won't talk about it. And if the other schools like it, they take it on. Some things are non-negotiable, like the Shiksha Kendra for the underprivileged. All the schools have it. Because that's something I think, as a nation, we need to do. We need to look at children's childhood and in whatever way make it better. The Shiksha Kendra, for example, which is actually the project from our hearts. And when I say our, it's parents, teachers, management, everybody. We tell the children about it from the time they are about 5 years old. The moment they come to prep. Pre-nursery, nursery is very small, but prep class is told that there's something called Shiksha Kendra. And that there are children who don't have money to come to regular school. So their eyes go a little goggle-eyed, because they don't understand money. So then we don't bring them here. It could distress them also. We show them some pictures. Now, honestly, the Shiksha Kendra kids don't look any different. They're kids and they're in the uniform. So then we talk about how we need to help them. So we have something called a spellathon, where for every right word, you give 1 rupee. So at the 10 words, you give 10 rupees, and it may be a small amount, but you collect that money for Shiksha Kendra. So the idea of Shiksha Kendra is ingrained in their mind. And parents have told me that they love it so much because it's made into a story and told. They say, ma'am, our child was saying that even if I have 8 questions, 8 spellings right, will you still give me 10 rupees?
How lovely.
So the parents say, ma'am, don't put anything on this. We are going to send the money anyway. Let them do whatever in the dictation. I just say, let them work for it. It makes it more meaningful that I learned some spellings for the Shiksha Kendra. It just becomes a little special for them. Then there are some parents who are very, very sweet. They say, whatever you collect with the spellathon, we will double it and give.
Oh, lovely.
So I have never had to ask. The money just comes for Shiksha Kendra, and nobody can doubt it ki kahan ja raha paisa dekh nahi raha. Come and see it. We started with 200 kids. Today we have 2,000 and it's growing. So you know immediately. And then whatever success story we have here, every year about 6-7 girls who are doing well are brought in the morning shift. They start doing well. We put up their results for whoever wants to see. One of our girls has got an office, first class officer's job with HSBC. We sort of made a story out of that. One of our girls has gone to USA on a full ride scholarship. We made a story of that. So these are inspirations which we hope should trigger a spark in everybody and they get involved in it. So I don't have to make an effort to make people care. If you're a dipset, it has to be in your DNA. But I must say there have been some challenges as well. So we deal with them. It's okay if out of a group of 400, if one parent says, my child will not stay back, and you can't force charity, ma'am. Okay. By all means, you'll have a great time in the future years.
How important is adoption of technology to schools? It's there's social media, there's branding. So there are 2 parts to this I wanted to ask about. One is as an institution level, how are you using technology to sort of the new medium that people are watching, seeing? That is one question. And the other part is how is technology getting adopted at the school, at the student level?
So technology came in our lives big time 2020 March when pandemic hit us. So we had to find ways of reaching out to the children in their homes. So what started then, we've not stopped. So we may not be having online classes, but there are still platforms where if we wish to add something extra, or if we want to give some notes or something, we use that, whether it's Google or Microsoft or whatever. And the other thing is, very often we have to have a holiday if it's too hot or too cold, or if it's raining very heavily and there are potholes and waterlogging, or if there's pollution. We have this option of going online and using technology to not stop the academic effort at all. That is one way. Secondly, I think now everything is happening through technology. So it's time for us not to shy away from it. So teachers are trained. We have interactive boards in the classroom. So while teaching, she can, refer to Google, bring out something, run a video. Because I think now increasingly children also need that multiple impetuses to learn. And sometimes we leave it open, okay, this is what we're going to study. Have you seen an interesting video? the kid is allowed to come and type on the interactive board and see what they want to share with the rest of the class. So, technology is here to stay, definitely. It's up to us to use it as wisely as possible. And the favorite question for many people is sometimes, will technology replace teachers? I have my doubts. And if there is some technology that can replace a teacher, she should be replaced. Because certainly technology will not give a warm smile or a hug or a little appreciative word till a prompt is given. A teacher will have that human element of smiling, of giving a hug or talking about something besides what is supposed to be taught. So, in that sense, a real teacher who's here to, impart more than just education is here to stay. And she has to use technology to make her teaching learning process more real, more enjoyable, and perhaps more lifelong.
School using the digital medium for its branding or its marketing, how has that changed and how do you see it happening now?
So, like I said, we've not done marketing as such. And God has been kind that we haven't needed to do marketing. But website was always there. I must admit it was not a very dynamic website. It just had the basic stuff and that was it. And parents who were seeking admission would go on it, look at my profile, maybe management, senior teachers, etc., and take a decision. Now it's very dynamic because we know that's the way the world is. Parents are busy. They cannot be here every day. So they just have to click on certain links and see exactly what's happened in the school today. So any moment of pride, we share it on the social media as well. Now, social media is something which has come alive a few years ago. So, if you want to be part of that mainstream, you have, you can't frown upon it and say, I'm not going to use social media. Then you will not be able to reach out. So, you will lose out on certain, groups of people. Our alumni, for example, is on social media. So, they also take a sense of pride in what's happening in the school or what new thing has been introduced here. And I think so we have a separate team. Whatever happens, which is good, which is interesting, which is impactful, is put on the website, and the same thing is shared on Facebook, Instagram, wherever it has to be taken on.
Do you think the audience amongst the parents changing because they're consuming a lot more of the social media and don't have the time to come to school? Is that also one of the reasons why this adaptation is needed?
Yes. See, parents are busy with their jobs, so I don't expect them. I expect them to sit and have a conversation with their child, but they may not know what's happening in another class. So it's a nice way to connect with them and say, see, your school went to Bulgaria and got a first prize in music and dance. They all take pride. They may not even know about it if the child is not performing or if the child's friend has not gone. So it's a nice way to reach out and give that sense of pride. And in terms of, I wouldn't call it marketing, but it maybe sends a trigger that, okay, this is one of the options that I have for my child,
Back in the day when there were limited schools, and the parents usually looked at, of course, results, kaise nikle school ke, ya fir ghar se kitna dur hai school, that those kind of things matter. And today, it's so many schools coming. What do you think are those elements that you think that it really impresses upon the parent that they join? Of course, there's a stable brand name that I spoke about.
Yeah.
Are there any other things?
Lots of things. So for a parent who may be working far away, the distance could be a factor. If they have a good school nearby, vis-a-vis a good school far away, they'll take the close by school. There are some, die-hard, passionately loyal dip sites who will say it has to be a DPS. A lot of my students have their children here, for example. Lots of them. My own batch has their grandparents here, our grandparents in the school. So, I think that is one thing which influences. There is also the flip side. The DPS makes us work very hard. My child should not work hard. Anything but DPS. To be honest, it happens. So they go to a school which they think has less rigor. I beg to differ because I think rigor comes up involuntarily, invariably and inevitably. So the sooner you get your child used to a certain pattern, for somebody even getting up in the morning and getting ready would be rigor. But you can't say, I'm going to lie in bed till 12 o'clock because this is rigor for me. you get the child moving, you get them into a certain mood. But every parent thinks differently, and I don't think any parent thinks of doing something which is not going to benefit the child. So in their own mind, if this is better, they go for that. So some influencers, definitely, if they're not ex-students of a particular school, would be the distance, the results, how much fees, and where do my friends' children go. Because that's very important. I have some friends whose child went to a certain school because he said all my cousins' kids were from there. So he would have got bullied on the weekend. So I put him also in the same school. So there are a lot of influencing things, So
The success stories of a school would matter. You have them asking those kind of questions.
So what typically parents tell me, the ones who are in movement or who come from another city, they go with what their colleagues are doing. So when I ask them, how did you learn about DPS, or who told you? My friend, the one who shares my cubicle, my boss, my previous boss, those are the influencers in that case. So the boss could be an alumni.
Yeah.
The colleague could be an alum. I don't know.
I'm going to come to the question on alumni itself. How is that gets managed in a way that is beyond a administrator, because the school has longevity longer than any individual. So what do you think it's important? One?
Definitely, because either you get into this act from the first batch that is passing out, then you can manage. But if it's something which you realize you finished 10 years or 15 years, and now there's this whole sea of alumni outside, and you're in touch with only 20%, then a school like mine wants to get them on board. Again, not for marketing, but for just being there, because this is where you started out. So if you have fond memories, come back. If you have bad memories, come back. Let's set those memories right. If you enjoyed your time, come and talk to your juniors and tell them that you enjoyed your time. So just that interaction is very important, and sometimes then we need someone to come and help us gather these, scattered leaves, so to say, and bring them on one platform so that they can be part of the larger community.
Having them sort of being on that community also makes it, for you to communicate with them, to come back and give back to school, like you said, to the students.
Yeah.
And I think because the ethos was put right in the beginning, with them educating the underprivileged.
Yes.
It's a part of
absolutely
giving back.
Absolutely, giving back to that community and to the morning shift, because children are children, whether they're in the Shiksha Kendra or in the morning, they need advice, they need guidance, and sometimes the guidance from the teachers and the parents could be very linear. So having someone who's done something very different and made a success could be inspirational. I did this and it worked out, so why didn't you also do it? Why didn't you join me instead? Those stories can also happen.
Has that happened? Alumni do not.
It happened with two cases. I started a startup with something with e-commerce, I think. Okay. And he met one of the alum from a junior class who was not a commerce student. And this person was a commerce student and this was a science student. But they came together and he used the tech bit to make this more robust.
Oh, that's lovely.
Very interesting.
That's lovely. You see, I think on a day-to-day basis, always looking to get people who understand technology.
Absolutely.
Of course, understand the human side of it as well. So coming together is fantastic. Being a student at DPS to becoming a principal, or the director, have you learned that one thing as a student that you've carried with you through your career?
I think discipline. That was a very important thing, and accepting a lot of tough times. These are the two things which I learned in my growing years. So, Arkipuram was a very new school when I started out there. Some parts were intense, somewhere there was a little, temporary structure. It wasn't what it is now. Okay. There were some classes that were built up, but the school grew. South Delhi was suddenly coming up in the 70s. So we had one little class which didn't have windows. It just had a door. It had a chapper on top. And it was very hot, but we used to rotate. So first period, one per class was there. Second period, some other class was there. And we didn't complain. This was discipline. You're in a school, you're sitting there, you're sweating, you're completely wet by the time you come to your class. Sat under a fan and you got dried up. So I think that inculcation of discipline was very important for us. And a working day was a working day, and a holiday was a holiday, and you came at the right time in the right uniform. You had to have a haircut. Our principal was very strict. The hair could come, if you did this and the hair was coming out here, it could be chopped off then and there. And no one questioned. So you grew up with that, I also come from an army background. So things like haircut and deportment and how you dress up was very important. I mean, we wouldn't dream of being badly turned out. So that has helped me. It is part of me now. I can't think of anything else. Dealing with different things and not questioning so much, because Mr. Lugani was our first principal, and he started the idea of stay back in school for extra work or stay back for a Monday test. We never question him, why should we stay back? I can't do it today. I cannot do it today. So yesterday I was talking to my senior kids. I said, 10 years ago, if I said there is a stay back on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, quietly the whole 11th and 12th would stay back. There would not be a sound. One or two would say, I have a passport meeting, I have a doctor's appointment, I have a tuition. But all other would stay. Now if I said, I think 3 will stay back, everybody else will go. So that is, I think things have changed. Society has changed. The role of school has changed. And we have accepted a bit of overdose of democracy, if I may say, that we allow them to say. Maybe we weren't allowed to say. If we couldn't stay back, we still jolly well stayed back. If you couldn't do something, you turned up, You can't not turn up. That is something which is so deeply ingrained that, I don't know if it's good or bad. Sometimes people say, that why can't you just rest for a day if you're not well? Because you have to be there. There's a function in school. How can you not be there?
If you're able to instill this, and then it's so inspiring.
Some of them have got it and they say it, that we've learned from you, that it doesn't matter. No one took off for a cough and cold. I've got 137 applications on Monday saying my child has a cough and cold and he won't come to school. I just throw up my hands and I say, okay, how will they work?
Your thoughts on schools that are in their first phase of 10 years, how would you look at, or what would your advice be to an administrator as well as somebody who owns a school that they're just sort of wanting to start now in their first 10 years? What are the things that they should focus on to make that a better place?
So for the owner, I would say, unless they're teachers and they have earned enough money or their family has money, leave it to the teachers to run the school. Be there as a support, be there to make sure that things are, if the certain thing has been bought, is it being used or not, or have you just bought it just to show off? So that is for the owner, to be supportive and to be vigilant about what kind of work is happening. That's it. No interference of who should be kept, what should be taught, how many periods who should get, leave it to the principal. To the principal, have a clear vision what you have. Like I said earlier, please know what your school is for. If it is just to impart basic education, by all means, that's important, do it. If it is to bring about a lot of change in the way people think, do that. If it means, introducing a lot of new programs, lot of functions, lot of events, please do that. Don't ignore mental health issues in teachers and in children. Everybody is grappling with something. So try and make your school as democratic as possible. Hear voices so that you can work out things which will help everybody. One size doesn't fit all, and it's becoming more and more evident now. So if you try and make one size fits all, you will have a crisis in the first 3 years.